Verse 7. And Moshe called unto Joshua, and said unto him in the sight of all Israel, Be strong and of good courage, for thou shalt go with this people into the land which Jehovah hath sworn unto their fathers to give them, and thou shalt cause them to inherit it. And Jehovah, he it is that doth go before thee. He will be with thee. He will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed.
Hallelujah. Let's stop there. What is Moses doing? I heard it mentioned this morning. Someone said, pass the baton. What is the idea inherent in passing the baton? Do I give you the baton so you can keep running? Or do I give you the baton so that you can pass me? What's the relationship between parent and child and teacher and disciple in the Tanakh? The same. That's why you have to have the same respect for your teachers that you have for your parents. In case we don't know. The sons of the prophets that we read about in the Bible were not their sons. They were the disciples. But the Tanakh says the sons of the prophets. Because the relationship between parent and child, teacher and disciple is one. So what are we talking about? What do I want to emphasize in this moment? There is no parent that desires that their child just do what they did. None. Every parent desires that their child surpass them.
That's right, do better.
So why is it that we as leaders or as teachers don't keep the same energy? What they call them out there? What's she known as? Yeah, whatever. These be your teachers that don't want to see you go out and do even greater things. How far the ball and the baton has been dropped when the leadership and the teachers don't desire that the next generation surpass them. That is the golden standard. We fail somewhere if this generation doesn't go further than the generations that came before us. Let's go and talk about our Rabbi Matthews, our amazing elders that laid this foundation. And let's ask ourselves some honest questions right now. What institutions did we build to surpass what they established? You see why Moses is making this appeal? Because the generation he spoke to then is the same generation we're speaking to right now. Stagnant. Got all this knowledge, but what the hell you doing with it? You got a problem with, oh, why she doing that? Oh, he doing too much. Why he doing that? What are you doing? Nothing. You'll notice that the people who always ain't involved with nothing got the most to say about something. You should have enough moral and spiritual etiquette to know if you don't got no work, you the last one to be speaking about who doing what with work. Hello? Tomshi.
Verse 9. And Moshe wrote this law and delivered it unto the priests, the sons of Lewi, that bore the ark of the covenant of Jehovah, and unto all the elders of Israel. And Moshe commanded them, saying, at the end of every 7 years, in the set time of the year of release, in the feast of tabernacles, when all Israel is come to appear before Jehovah thy God in a place which he shall choose, thou shalt read this law before all Israel in their hearing. Assemble the people, the men, and the women, and the little ones, and thy stranger that is within thy gates, that they may hear, and that they may learn and fear Jehovah your God, and observe to do all the words of this law.
Stop right there. Powerful. Moshe was commissioned to galvanize the entire congregation, the entire community, all of Am Yisrael. Why? Because it takes all to make this work. So if we're behind the scenes discussing those key elements that's necessary for community, and we're not involving all aspects of the community, we are failing. Even the children have to have jobs in the nation. We speak about nation, right? Even the children have to have jobs. there's something that you have to do. When everybody's busy doing something, work is being done. Progress is being met. But if we hallelujah and shouting and year after year repeating the same cycle, you ever seen the movie, I think it's Groundhog Day? I tell you this with all humility. Sometimes you look out in the world, the general world that you live in, and it's like Groundhog Day. What George Bush Sr. was doing back then, his son did, and they doing now. Groundhog Day. America's policy towards black people from its inception is the same from then till now. Groundhog Day. The look of the Hebrew Israelites in the Israelite community is beautiful as ever. That's a good Groundhog Day. But the lackluster work ethic is not acceptable. Groundhog Day. What are we doing? Do you know the power of one able-bodied man? And when I say man, Israel, I include the family. Do you know the power of one able-bodied man and what they're able to do? So could you imagine 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Talk to me. The Creator took Noah because he said, I have found that there was none righteous but him. He saved the whole world for his sake, for our sake. If one man can save a universe, then what's the strength of an Israelite congregation? Somebody please talk to me. We have too much knowledge, too much know-how to not have enough application. Part of the issue that we do see in our communities is that we don't have enough open dialogue. And I say that as a layman because I am not as involved in this community as I need to and should be. But hold on, we need more people to say that too. Because can I come up here and talk about what I don't see and what I'm not perceiving? And I'm not knocking on doors and saying, hey, what can I do? So it goes full circle. We all could do better. And it starts here. Tomshi.
And that their children who have not known may hear and learn to fear Yahweh your God, as long as ye live in the land, whether you go over the Jordan to possess it. Verse 14. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, behold, thy days approach that thou must die. Call Joshua and present yourselves in the tent of meeting, that I may give him a charge. And Moshe and Joshua went and presented themselves in the tent of meeting. And Yahweh appeared in the tent in a pillar of cloud. And the pillar of cloud stood over the door of the tent. And
Stop right there, slowly. Stop right there. What's interesting as we're watching this unfold is that Moshe is literally setting up Joshua to be the next person before the eyes of the congregation and before the Creator of heaven and earth. And what's interesting about that is we should all be taking notes. I'm going to be hard on us. And I'll say this. At what point do we wake up in our 30s, at least, 40s, and 50s, and realize you're that next generation? Now. Are you waiting for somebody that's in their 80s to step off the podium for you to start doing work? We are that next generation now. By the time you decide that you're ready, you're not ready. You're not even relatable. The young boys not checking for you no more because you lost your relatability. Seize these moments while you still have some feasible relatability. Because once you lose it, it's gone. Old young boys will tell you quick, we're not checking for what you saying, old head. And they so crazy with it, they calling us old heads from our 30s. What I'm noticing in this passage for me is that in order to have a successful future generation of leaders, there has to be a smooth enough transition of leadership. Absolutely. We have to really become more involved in wanting to see a smooth transition of leadership, because I gotta tell you, and I gotta be honest, once you reach a certain age, most people ain't checking for you. And I'm telling you that. And if you lose your relatability, it don't matter how powerful and how wise your words are, they not checking for you. One of the greatest speakers in our modern era is none other than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But how many of the younger generation is checking for him? Some of us, many of us, even as Israelites, know when the Most High calls that man, some of us gonna drop tears. You know why? Be spiritually mature. While he may not have spoke directly and always out the Tanakh, many a times he spoke the words of Tanakh. Somebody talk to me. He stood with some amazing elders among us, Ben Ami. He called for something that was named and termed the Million Man March. But what did we do? Gathered 1 million people on the lawn, but what did they do? But what did you do? But what did you do? We are so prideful that we don't even know how to take notes. Because if we've been really taking notes, the Israelite Million Man March would have happened already. I say in this moment that one of the most impactful blessings about the reading of the Tanakh and the Torah is how honest and transparent the text is. As great as Moses is, it tells us that he was not allowed to come into the land because he smote the rock. I'm glad y'all didn't co-sign me on that, because that's that Christian talk. Moses didn't come in the land because he started speaking French. He said, shall we? We? We who? And I mean that with all due respect, because Moses will still go down right now, blessed be his memory, as one of the very best we ever produced. So I say that respectfully. But the Creator said, because you did not sanctify my name. So as Israelites, we got to be careful. In our communities, we are divided in I'm going to just say it, religious views. No, we don't believe in religion. Some of us got religion. Religion is when you're not moving in the spirit properly, it becomes religion. We separate in our religious views. And we mad at one community because they don't accept who you say is the Messiah. And we mad at another community because you do accept. When all of us have people in our community that move like they the Messiah, and some of y'all run with it like they are too. So how we look? Crazy. How do we look? Crazy. I say that to say this Parsha and Moses went is going to be followed by Ha'azinu. Give ear. Give ear. Ozen. Ozen in Hebrew forms another word. Maizan. Moznayim. Balance. If you're not giving heed or ear, you don't have spiritual equilibrium. You don't have balance.
For it shall not be forgotten out of the mouths of their seed, for I know their imagination, how they do even now, before I brought them into the land which I swore. So Moshe wrote this song the same day, and taught it the children of Israel. And he gave Joshua the son of Nun a charge, and said, Be strong and of good courage, for thou shalt bring the children of Israel into the land which I swore unto them, and I will be with thee.
Stop right there. Do you think Moses envisioned that Joshua just do what he did? Did you think Moses' vision was, Joshua, so long as you do what I did, you good before God? Or do you think Moses envisioned that Joshua take the baton and go further than him?
Definitely.
We say that of our teachers of blessed memory, when they pass, may their memory be blessed. Mm-hmm. Well, how is that possible when we don't take their work, build upon it, and create something greater? Mm. Right. We talk about continuing the legacy. How is that possible unless you add your own impetus? What's necessary for continuity in any legacy is that you assess and reassess that which was given before. If corrections need to be made, you make them, and then you move on. Right. If corrections need to be made, yes, if corrections need to be made. We're just men. And not everybody spoke this word exactly how it's supposed to be taught. You think as a teacher, you're just supposed to parrot and puppet what the teachers before you said? Well, no wonder it's Groundhog Day. Because nobody is courageous or bold enough to realize that no man is perfect. Part of moving forward is to go back, make corrections, and then step. Hallelujah.
And it came to pass when Moshe had made an end of writing the words of this law in the book until they were finished, that Moshe commanded the Levites that bore the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, saying, take this book of the law and put it by the side of the ark of the covenant by Yahweh your God, that it may be there for a witness against thee. For I know thy rebellion and thy stiff neck. Behold, while I am yet alive with you this day, ye have been rebellious against Yahweh, and how much more after my death? Assemble unto me all the elders of your tribes and your officers, that I may speak these words in their ears, and call heaven and earth to witness against them. For I know that after my death ye will in any wise deal corruptly, and turn aside from the wrath which I have commanded, from the way which I have commanded you. And evil shall befall you in the end of days, because ye will do that which is evil in the sight of Yahweh, to provoke him through the work of your hands. And Moshe spoke in the ears of all the assembly of Israel the words of this song until they were finished. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. If I could leave us with a closing thought, I will simply say this. We have failed our teachers if we don't take what they give us and go further. Mm-hmm. It is the job of every single one of us as the next generation, the current next generation, to take that baton and go further. We have failed our teachers when and if we don't do more work. The work does not stop for any one of us. None of us were here to be a carbon copy of someone who was here before. You're all here to work and build upon what the prior generation built. Don't let your ancestors down. Don't let your God down. And I hope you don't even want to let yourself down. With that being said, it's always an honor to come before God's people. It's always an honor to speak real and transparent. And one thing that I have to say is this. My message today is not coming from someone who was without fault. My message today is coming from someone who has many pitfalls. One of my teachers when I first came in this way of life is here in the building right now, and I don't often get to see him. And his name is Crown Prince Zurishaddai. And I remember as a youngin', and he may laugh when he hears me say this, that he would say, I never fell off. From Shabbat to Shabbat, I'm there. And I've seen it. I've seen this man, if I could use him as a segue to close, I've seen him come to temple in a condition that you wouldn't want to come to temple. I've seen Crown Prince literally battle throughout the week and come to the temple with a nose swollen. Meanwhile, I don't want to go to the temple next week because my lips chapped. They don't make them today like they used to make them back then. So I say this as my way to close. I honor my teachers. I realize that I don't, in many ways, live up to the standards that they even set for us. But one thing that I am is persistent, because this thing about righteous says that you shall pursue it. You shall pursue. Zedek, you shall pursue. Doesn't always mean you're going to capture it, but you have to pursue it. With that being said, giving all honor to the God of our ancient forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, the true and the living God, even the Most High God. Thank you very much. Hallelujah.
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 Thanking the Most High God for the life of our brother, Mori Avdiel Ben Levi Ben Yisrael. And as he was saying that, I just thought about all the teachers and all the men and women that came. Who was the guy that said, I am a revolutionary? Who was that? What was his name? Fred Hampton. How old was he? He was young. Malcolm X, young man. Listen, Martin Luther King. When we think of all the men and the women, my father, Corn Levy, they were doing this. By the time he was my age, they were doing big things. So like he said, we're not doing enough. We're not doing enough. There's work that needs to be done. I was talking to a Christian man just the other day, this week, and he said he was talking about the children in the church, and he said every time we have like a work detail or something, he said it's the old people that come out to do the work, but the able-bodied people are not there. That don't make any sense. When there's work to be done, the young ones should be ready, willing, or they're able. They're strong. Look at these strong boys we got here. They're strong. You know, they can lift things. You know, our bodies are getting older, man. We lift. We got to remember the rules of lifting. Lift with your knees. I had to lift something the other day. I was like, I had to do a few squats first. But the point is, we got to get these young people geared up. They got to take over. You know, I don't want to see Ima and Muna busting down tables and setting up chairs and stuff like that. We can't have that. Not to say that we're going to be, you know, just going to sit around and not let things get cleaned up. Because if you see dirt on the floor, pick up the dirt. If things need to be cleaned, clean it. But you young people, you young men and women, it's time to step up. We need you. We need you to carry on this legacy and to do it better than what we did. Way better. Let us begin to end out. Slockley, Crown Prince, you want to say, you want to come to the mic?
I'm not going to keep you that long. You know, I'm looking at the time. And since I got stuck up, well, I made an extra stay for a weekend. I figure, and Shabbat Shuvah is returned, which, as you heard, Israel returning in the Torah itself. I figure I'd just say a couple words before I hit that highway. You know, I mean, 95 used to be called, you know, the bootleg route, you know. So I'm headed that way. But first of all, let's give praise to the Supreme Paternal Universe, God, my forefathers, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and due respect to the leadership here, the spiritual leader, Chief Prince Ariel, to the Prince Chief, Maureen, Kohanim, Rabbanim that's listening, brothers and sisters, visitors, I greet you in the tongue of forefathers, Shalom Aleichem, you know, and Shabbat Shalom. And you know, it's one of the rare opportunities I get a chance to hear, you know, Chief Abdiel in person, one of the rare times, because we, you know, I'm in one location, he in another location. Most time you see the Zoom, you know, so it's good to, you know, see, you know, people, you know, up close and personal. But one of the things, you know, being interesting, you know, before I leave, just some takeaways is just that, you know, usually Nezavim and Wayelek is usually combined in most years, you know, and it seems like there's two juxtapositions of those particular sidros, because when you look at the Nezavim is stand, but it's a different from the word omeid, which is standing. You know what I mean? So it's like stand firm. And then here it is talking about, and you know, and he left. He went. So he said, well, okay, how stand firm and still go? You got to ask those different questions. And then when you look at the sidra he brought out today, say, where did Moses go? He's still there. So what is he standing firm on prior to all them bad information of curses that he talked about prior, and then we're standing firm here, and he's telling that everybody's standing firm there. You know, not just standing, but you're standing firm, holding on to what? So what we're supposed to be about is about the Lord's statutes and judgments. That's about. And when we fall short of that, then how we get back? You know, and then and Moses, like I said, and he went. So he not only, it's not stated where he went, because he's still standing there talking, but yet he showed where he left from. You know, we got testimony from where he left from. And part of the return is you got to know where you left from, you know, in order to be able to build up. So as we come into the Shabbat of a return before we get into Yom Kippur, the thing is that, you know, they have a thing called Wadui, which are confessions. Now, I just want to caution people, you know, some things best confessed to God, and some things, you know, I mean, you can confess to another individual. Because sometimes in your confession to other individuals, you say, well, I never knew you thought about me like that. I never knew you was about that. You know, so you might create another type of, you know, imbalance going into the year. So you know, so one of the things, you know, and Waduri is actually, you know, you might find in some prayer books, it really means from the word da'at, which means knowledge. So you're making an acknowledgement of how you've been carrying on. We all make an acknowledgement how we've been carrying on as we reach Yom Kippur. And a lot of times we don't want to acknowledge how we've been carrying on as we reach that particular time. So one of the things, you know, and I like when Chief Abdiel brought out in reference to the transition of power, the smooth transition of power and authority. See, most of us in the past don't know when it's time to sit down. And that's been the problem with some of our, you know, different congregations, different leaderships in different areas. And, you know, and I'm one of the guys that I might be younger than some of the guys that y'all might know, but I got a little bit more time than most of the guys that you know, in this way of life. And the thing is that you got to be able to say, I am prepared to step away because my time had expired, and I know things will be in good hands going forward. And that is one of the things that most people don't have in their sight. They figure, I got to be here forever, the program won't run. If I'm going, you know, this is over with. We had a prophet say, look, I'm alone as the last of the prophets. And you had 100 or so hiding in the cave, 50 and 50. Right. But he's the last one. If he go, God, you're out of business. So we got to recognize, to be able to make a transition, in a smooth transition. And we got to say, well, look, I did all I'm able to do with my capability. And I fought pretty much a good fight bringing it to this far. But Moses recognized that. You know, he just didn't recognize at first who's going to be his replacement. But then you look at the greatness of the replacement. Joshua was already battle ready. Because what? First fight was the Amalekites. Mm-hmm. All right? He also was a good disciple. You know? First one he met coming down the mountain was who? Yehoshua. All right? So then, and he sat by Moses' tent day and night. Mm-hmm. All right? But Moses didn't see him as to being the replacement until God said, hey, he got a different spirit. That's not the same guy you recognize. So sometimes you'll be looking for a particular guy to replace you instead of saying, I know I'm replaceable right now. So that's what you got to look at and say, I know that I'm doing all I can and I'm put out enough that everybody else, the program going to be in capable hands. One of the things I use as an example is that when I used to deal with chairing the meetings at Shema, I know how to do the secretary job. I know how to do the treasurer job. And I know how to do the chairperson job, the administrator job. But I refuse to do all that because I don't want, if I'm not there, the program not to move forward. That's why, even though I said I will give you some pointers, give you some assistance here and there, but I'm not doing it only because I'm concerned about the future of the program. All right? And that's the way people should be. So you gotta have a program for the youth. You gotta have something for the next generation. You just can't keep it to yourself and every now and then when you get pushed in the corner, bring it out. And so that's one of the things we got to look at. And like I said, acknowledgement of what we did as we're going forward to Yom Kippur. Then Yom Kippur, it's nowhere in the scriptures where we are told to actually forgive anybody, but it helps. Nowhere it's told there. New Testament, yes, but for those that go into New Testament, but nowhere, because when you're talking about forgiving, you're taking a loss. You're taking a deficit, but it also develops you. Be able to move on, because now when you acknowledge, and make an acknowledgement of confessions on Yom Kippur and start to confess before the All Highest, what you're doing, you're saying, when you say you allow yourself to be vulnerable, but you're also at the same time saying, I'm strong enough to let that opening be there. And that's what you're supposed to do. So with that, like I say, sometimes, as teaching, we might say certain things and people think we're talking about that individual, and I might not know anything about your personal stuff. It might be the text. So maybe the text, I might come on strong about the text, but not knowing your personal business, you might think I'm talking about you directly. So, and a lot of times, misunderstanding, miscommunication is one of the key factors that cause, aggression. And people say, well, why you got a thing with this brother or this sister? Well, I don't like the way they look. Look where? At me. Or somebody might look and remind you, because all this has been dropped off at different places. So we might have to look like the guy, and I always focus on stereotype and archetype. Get to know the archetype and forget about the stereotype. But that, say shalom aleichem, and I thank you for the time.
Hallelujah.